Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. And I do want to highlight dynamicforces.com real quick. Check out their website. They got great limited edition covers, CGC books, signed books, remarks, amazing content over at dynamicforces.com. And be sure to enter Robbie at your cart and save 10%. And we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Nightwing, issue number 87. Really, upon further insight and reflection, I just couldn't let anything else be the pick of the week after this issue of Nightwing. This issue is fantastic. A bit too brief as far as the story goes, but technically, artistically, it's really solid. So it is a series of panels going down the side of the city, and you got Nightwing and other people involved in a mystery and a chase, and it's all happening across the pages. So I'll show you a little bit of it. If you'll notice, you see the city. You see Nightwing moving. That's the, the Luca effect, right? Where you see a series of images of a character simulating movement throughout a comic book page or an image, right? And that's what happens, and the entire issue is like this. If you had all of the pages together, it would make one long image with one long DeLuca effect. It reminds me of this book, Madman Atomic Comics, issue number 9. Mike Allred did pretty much the same thing with this one, and I think that this one felt a little bit more satisfying as far as the completion of a story and something weird and zany and wild. This Nightwing one does feel like the ending is all of a sudden abrupt and just ends all of a sudden. That being said, the technical skill, the craft, this isn't an easy thing to do, and it was done incredibly well. And one thing that it did better than the Allred one was providing depth of the city. It's not just all on one street. It goes throughout, into the background, into the foreground, into buildings, out of buildings. Really great comic book, innovative, cool, technical. A lot of skill involved in this book. Bruno Redondo and Adriana Lucas. Fantastic art team. Tom Taylor crafts a decent enough story to really let the artwork shine, though. Nightwing 87, the pick of the week. Then we got Batman One Dark Night. This is a Prestige Plus DC Black Label, 3-issue miniseries, I believe, by Jock, right? So it's written and illustrated by Jock. Jock, of course, did amazing Batman work. The Black Mirror story, for instance, with Scott Snyder. That's where we get Jock's Detective 880, that Joker face, that iconic image that you've seen everywhere, like posters, magnets, lunchboxes. Is there a lunchbox? There should be, if there's not. Anyway, One Dark Night is actually really solid. I thought this was a cool book. So what it is there's this villain called EMP. It's got like electromagnetic powers, and they're trying to transfer him from Arkham Asylum to Blackgate Prison. And so you have to go all the way across Gotham to do it. They happen to be doing it on the hottest night in the summer during a heat wave, and then all this gang violence as well. And Batman's monitoring it to make sure that everything's okay. And of course, something crazy happens. Bam! Power grid fries, and all of a sudden, all the power goes out in the city, and Batman now has to physically take this criminal across a super hot Gotham in the dead of night with no power and a bunch of people after him. It's a really cool premise. The way it sets itself up is cool. If you like Jock, you're going to get exactly what you would expect out of here. Rough, edgy, raw kind of line work, a really frantic nature to it sometimes, but it works very well for me. I'm really excited to see where this one's going to go. Batman One Dark Night, really liked it. Then we got Catwoman Lonely City, issue number 2. I wasn't quite sold on issue number 1, but I'm very much sold on issue number 2. I'm getting into the flow and the vibe of the story. This is written and illustrated by Cliff Chang. The artwork is absolutely freaking phenomenal. It's got this great light palette to it, this kind of classical feel, but at the same time doing something really fun and interesting, right? So it's kind of like Dark Knight Returns, but Catwoman's version of it, which Catwoman's version is not going to be near as dark, but still tragic, and it's going to be a little bit more lighter and heisty and fun than obviously Dark Knight Returns. When I say it's like the Dark Knight Returns, what I mean is it's Catwoman coming out of a semi-retirement type thing. However, it's really cool. Artwork is great, nice, clean, and crisp. Lots of references to old school Catwoman type stuff that I thought was really neat. But I like it. You know, in the first issue, I didn't really like some of the choices, like Two-Face being mayor and Killer Croc kind of being in the iteration that he's in. But knowing the vibe and flavor of the series, issue number 2 really stepped it up. This is issue number 2 of 4 issues, I believe. That was really solid. Then we got Catwoman issue number 38. This is the final issue of Robbie's run. He ends it in a very well done way. Anything that was left dangling and loose gets kind of wrapped up here, and it also has Casper Wingard on the art, you know, from Homesick Pilots and Limbo. Big fan of this cat's artwork, big fan of Rom V, my favorite writer of 2021 by far, and this is a nice satisfying conclusion, being a single issue story, a great coda and epilogue, as well as just kind of tying up some loose ends and setting up neatly for the next writer, which will be Teenie Howard. Then we got Robin's issue number 2. Yeah, I'm just not really liking this one. So Robin's is about all of the people who had ever been a Robin meeting up to have like a deep discussion about the psychological effects and trauma of being a Robin or something like that, right? And in the midst of it, they get attacked by a character claiming that she is the first Robin. You unlock all these ideas that Batman's kind of got these files on all the Robins, and he's trying to solve the mission without them, but they're going to go around against it. The personalities kind of work, but the overall story's got some interesting bits to it, but the execution just falls flat for me. Nothing really exciting about it. It sounds like it should be a lot more exciting than the experience was for me. So I might be done with that one. Justice League Incarnate issue number 2. The book's starting to take a step down. Really loving the Infinite Frontier. That stuff was big and wild. We're going right into Justice League Incarnate. This is basically the follow-up to Infinite Frontier. There's a crack in the multiverse. Darkseid's there. He's trying to bring the great darkness from it. And then you got Barry Allen Flash has gone missing. So Justice League Incarnate is after him, looking for him from multiverse to multiverse. We spent a lot of time here on Earth 13 with the demon and all the evil occult type characters. And so that's cool. They introduced the Batwoman who laughs in here, and it's just kind of like thrown in, kind of comes out of nowhere, and that kind of detracted me from the story just a little bit, but there are moments in here I really liked, including some of the Kyle Hotz artwork. But the artwork is a bit inconsistent because it does change artists whenever they go from world to world, and it doesn't usually feel so jarring than it does in this issue. It just kind of threw me off a little bit, but the Kyle Hotz stuff, maybe that's because I was just that into it. So Justice League Incarnate, it's okay. Big multiversal type ideas, supposedly building up to something. We shall see. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, issue number 6. I kind of have a love-hate thing with this book. I feel like sometimes the dialogue is just too freaking long, too verbose. It clunks and stutters the pace of the book, and it's got amazing, beautiful artwork, great composition in those panels, a great design on those panels. This one, amazing artwork, and okay, so it basically recaps the origin of Supergirl, and Tom King does a good job of kind of painting it in a familiar yet slightly off context to really, I don't think a lot of people see her origin in this kind of a way, and I really liked and appreciated what Tom King was doing with that. However, aside from retelling the origin, literally nothing happens. Like, nothing happens. Tom King's stretching out a story in 8 issues already. That being said, artwork was great. I like the idea of the retelling of the origin. And I even like the little trick that's being done. But a whole issue for that? I don't know. That threw me off. Not as much as this one, though. Batman Catwoman, issue number, what is this, 9? Yeah. I'm trying to stick it through. I cannot handle this right now. The art change between Clay Williams or Clay Mann and Liam Sharp doesn't bother me as much. I like Liam Sharp's artwork, but it is a different tone that's present since he's come on to do the art in just like 3 issues. I think Clay Mann's coming right back, but I don't know, man. The story, it's told like in the past, in a somewhat present, and in a future, and all the bits are supposed to like reflect one another, kind of thematically and structurally, and even like really on the nose. They do that here, so it's supposed to be the big moment where everything like you come to like, oh, I see, but it's not working. He's got these 3 stories juggling around. And it's just becoming kind of a confusing mess to me. And I don't even know if I want to read the last 3 issues. And that's been disappointing. Wonder Woman Evolution issue number 2. Yeah, I'm done with this one too. It's only an 8-issue miniseries. Stephanie Phillips, Mike Hawthorne. The art is not for me. I do not like the artwork. And the story is, I mean, the script is, I mean, it's not necessarily a boring comic or something, but it's not good. Like, there's nothing there. There's no meat on the bones. This is a really brisk read. So it's like you have Tom King being like super verbose and exposition-y, and then you got Stephanie Phillips like doing nothing but just a couple little things here and there. So it's a quick-paced book, but there's nothing to it. So I didn't really like that one that much at all. And then we got Refrigerator Full of Heads, issue number 3. I'm digging this book. You know, it's not written by Joe Hill, and it doesn't have artwork by Leah Max, but I'm digging what Tom Fowler and Rio Yillers is doing. It's an interesting way to expand on the lore and the mythology of Basket Full of Heads, which was a story about an axe that if you cut off someone's head, their head is still alive. They're just talking, doing all kinds of stuff. So that axe is involved here. A new group of people, including some familiar old faces from the previous book. And now we have been led to the revelation that there are other artifacts that have other kind of inherent powers, right? And that's really cool, and I like it. It's not as good as Basket Full of Heads, but it is pretty solid. Let's jump over to Marvel. And from Marvel, we have Avengers Forever, issue number 1 by Jason Aaron, Aaron Cooter, and Jason Keith. I didn't really like this one. So it's got really nice artwork. It's multiversal. That's going to be the big rage with everything going on with What If and Doctor Strange and everything in between. Avengers Forever number 1, though, fell pretty flat for me. I haven't really been liking the Avengers run for like 50 plus issues now. And all this is kind of building into what feels like it's the final act of Jason Aaron's run, where we've had this idea that there are these like totems of power in Earth's history. There's like Mjolnir, there's the Phoenix Force, there's the Black Panther power, there's the Iron Fist, the Sorcerer Supreme, the Spirit of Vengeance, and things like that, right? The Star Brand, whatnot, right? And there's been a mystery that's been kind of coming up with all that kind of stuff that's interesting enough to me, and that's what's kept me kind of plugged into the Avengers for a while, but I haven't really been enjoying it. And now it's splitting off into 2 books. So we also have Avengers number 51 out this week. So I would recommend that you read this one first, but they do kind of both work independently, but at the same time, they're riffing on the same idea. There is an attack from the multiverse. There's a multiversal Masters of Evil. They're attacking here. This is explaining where the backup, the multiversal heroes are coming from. I don't know, man. Like, I just don't like this. I don't know. I'm not digging it. I don't know if I want to keep reading Avengers. It's been a long road, though. It's been so long. King Conan is here with issue number 1. I got that Stan Sakai cover. Had to. King Conan by Jason Aaron. A much better Jason Aaron comic. I like this one. Mahmoud Asrar on the artwork. If you like Conan, if you liked what Aaron and Asrar did on their previous run, they did the 12 issues when Conan first went back to Marvel, the life and death of Conan the Barbarian. This is a follow-up to that, a direct follow-up. So it's kind of cool. I know you're going to be expecting to see King Conan, like on the throne and stuff, but you're actually seeing something outside of that, but reflecting on that, and it was really rather interesting. It went on a bit too long. I don't really think that it started feeling maybe a little draggy at times, but I still love the artwork. I liked the story. I liked the writing. It did just kind of go on too long. I'm like, this is one of those ones, it's like, you're trying to justify a $4.99 price tag. It is $4.99, right? Yeah. You're trying to justify a $4.99 price tag. Probably would have been a better experience at $3.99, but it was solid. Then we got Venom issue number 3. I loved this issue. I thought it was great. This one's written by Ron V. It's got artwork by Brian Hitch. I like it. I like the artwork. I think it's super cool and solid and doable. It's not the best work I've seen from Brian Hitch. It's not even the best work in recent years I've seen from Brian Hitch, but it's totally above serviceable for me, and I really like the story. We're focused now on the Earth-based aspect of everything. Al Ewing's going to be doing the Cosmic Eddie stuff, and we got the Earth-based Dylan stuff by Ron B. So we're focused in on that. Dylan is trying to... He's refusing the call right now, right? He doesn't want any part of the symbiote. The symbiote reminds him of his father. He thinks his father's dead, so he won't bond with the symbiote. So he's trying to do things on his own, and he gets in a little bit over his head. Really like some of the ideas that are being developed here from both sides of the equation, the Dylan hero side as well as the Life Foundation evil corporation side. I think Ron V's doing a really good job with these last few issues of Venom. Issue number 3 out this week. Then we got Wastelanders Hawkeye, issue number 1. This one's all right. So it's by Ethan Sachs, Ibrahim Robertson on the artwork. Artwork's pretty solid throughout. This is set in the world of the Wasteland, the world of Old Man Logan. This is a solo, one-shot, self-contained story. I think it's kind of based on a podcast, but it works as just a nice one-shot comic set in this world starring Hawkeye. I was really liking this book at first. It's got Daredevil in there. He's taken on the role of Stick. He's the one who's been training Hawkeye. You see some of that training. Then you see a mission that he sends him on. And then the end of the book, the punchline, the hook, like the whole finale, I was like, what? Whack. That book was I was really enjoying that book until the ending. Then we got Miss Marvel, Beyond the Limit, issue number 1. It's a new miniseries starring Kamala Khan. Miss Marvel's written by Saladin Ahmed, Andreas Guinolet there, and Triana Farrell on the coloring. I think if you've been reading Ahmed's Miss Marvel run, which ended, that Magnificent Miss Marvel series ended, this is the continuation of that. It's just a miniseries. It's going, believe it or not, multiversal. I have no idea why. But Miss Marvel going multiversal, a kind of a slow setup of an issue. It's still got a quirk and a charm about it that I really do like, but I kind of fell out of this book, so I found myself just a bit flung in. It wasn't overly confusing or anything, so if you've never read a Miss Marvel book, I suppose you could just jump in here, but I would suggest just going back to the original G. Willow Wilson stuff. I really, really like that run. This was just kind of okay. It was average. Then we got Darkhold SpiderMan, so I have not really been liking the premise behind the Darkhold event, but I've been liking these Darkhold one-shots. Spider-Man is another one that I liked. They're all kind of like horror-inspired, what-if alternate takes on familiar common heroes in the Marvel Universe. Once again, all multiversal stuff. I don't know where this idea's come from, but Darkhold SpiderMan is written by Alex Paknadel, friend of the show, writer of Friendo, writer of Arcadia, writer of Turncoat. I mean, come on, right? Writer of Giga. Really, really love and respect Alex's work. I really love some of the body horror elements that he's thrown in here. The artwork works for me sometimes it doesn't, but I did appreciate the vibe of the story. And what Alex did with Reed Richards, one of my favorite superheroes, that was some twisted, messed up stuff. I really liked it. So Darkhold SpiderMan, that one shot is out this week. Then we got Moon Knight, issue number 6. This kind of wraps up the first arc of Moon Knight, if you can call him that. Each issue's kind of been its own sort of self-contained story in an overall narrative. We had the reveal of Zodiac being behind a lot of the events of the last few issues, and now this is the big battle, and Moon Knight's in over his head, and maybe he needs a little bit of help. So this does a really great job of giving us a satisfying single-issue story, as well as having all of that spin out of what's come before and having it resolve with what's come before too. Loving the artwork by Cappuccino and Jed MacKay. Jed MacKay's doing some really consistently solid work at Marvel right now. Moon Knight has been one of my favorite Marvel books of the year. Then we got Black Panther issue number 2, John Ridley, Juan Cabal. Here in issue number 2, I am still disappointed by the artwork. It doesn't have the dynamic flair and quality that I was expecting out of Juan Cabal. I've seen work from this cat that is very energetic and vibrant, but I'm just not picking up on that vibe here in Black Panther. I am liking the story, though. Basically, you find out T'Challa has had all these spies all over the damn place. Somebody finds out about this operation, so they're out targeting him. So it's a really cool, interesting concept. T'Challa's badass. I like his characterization. I just wish the artwork could be a little bit more poppy, and that would really help lift John Ridley's script up into that dynamic quality that we come to expect from a Kirby character like Black Panther. Issue number 2, though, pretty decently solid. Then we got Hawkeye Kate Bishop, issue number 2. I liked this one, too. I wasn't familiar with this creative team. I was a big fan of Kate Bishop from the Matt Fraction run, from the Kelly Thompson run. I was just worried that this one wasn't going to have a lot of effort behind it, and I liked it. I thought that this one was a cool follow-up to issue number 2. I think the character of Kate's pretty solid. It's just she is a little bit turned up. She's not quite to 11, but Kate should be at like an 8, and this is turned up to like a 9.5, so they kind of toned that down a little bit. Less obnoxious at times. But that being said, I think this was a really solid book. It was decent. It was cool. It's not going to change your life, but it's really good, especially if you're a Kate Bishop fan. So there you go. From Boom Studios, we have House of Slaughter, issue number 3. This book's all right. I mean, I don't hate it. I like it. I thought the story was cool. I liked it. It did do this kind of going back and forth, like from a 15 years ago point to the present point in the story, and that I felt like, I mean, they've been doing that. James Tynion and Tate Brownball have been doing that here, but it's just, it didn't work for me here. It didn't work for me thematically. It felt a little weird. Didn't really seem to pack a lot of nuance, but I do still like the book. What it's doing mostly is explaining some of the world building, some of the lore and mythology behind the Order of St. George and all that kind of stuff. We get less of that here and more of a character focus on Jace and on Aaron. And they're doing cool work, but it's juxtapositioned against a scene that it doesn't feel very right. It's just, I don't know. There's something off about this issue of House of Slaughter. Even artistically, there just felt like it wasn't as clean as the last couple, but it was still decent. House of Slaughter number 3, though, still pretty decent. Then we got Out of Body, issue number 5. This is the conclusion to this Pete Milligan story with Inaki Miranda artwork. I've been really liking this book. It's a satisfying enough conclusion. It didn't completely wow me. It does leave things set up for this to possibly continue. I would love that because I love this idea that Pete Milligan's been exploring. So what it is, it's about this dude who got knocked out, put into a coma, and now he's like in a coma, but his body is out on the astral plane, right? And he winds up meeting other astral travelers and magicians or whatnot. He's not a magician, but he winds up being tutored by one of them. He's trying to solve the mystery of who attacked him, right? And he gets to see other people's perspective of him from outside of his own perception. Anyway, I really liked the conclusion. I thought it was cool. It didn't quite wow me, though. It wasn't quite psychedelic as much as I thought it would be, but it was nice. I liked it. I liked the story. I liked the themes that Milligan was exploring. So Out of Body number 5, that was cool. Ethan Rich, issue number 5. This is the final issue of this one. Wasn't really digging it in issue 1. Issue 2, maybe a little bit. 3, okay, I'm intrigued. 4, it's all right. 5, are you serious? Are you serious? This is the ending? This is the ending? This is the ending? Whack. Did not like that ending whatsoever. Gunslinger Spawn is here, though, with issue number 3. Like it fully. So there's this new character. What's her name? What's her name? I thought her name was BS, but that's not it. I don't even know what her name is right now. But it doesn't matter. So there's this new character. I think she was introduced in the last issue. Like we saw her. You get to understand who she is. She's like an assassin that this, I guess, Angels and Demons Pact is sending after Gunslinger Spawn. I'm liking the book. There's something about the coloring or the printing process that felt a bit airy, so it didn't feel like it had weight. The art didn't feel like it had the weight that it did in the last couple. Sometimes, though, I just picked that up from Brett Booth. Like, there's something thin about his line work to me sometimes. Aside from that, the artwork in a lot of scenes is really freaking cool. This new character, the design is cool. A little bit of interesting stuff going on between her and Gunslinger Spawn, plus dinosaurs. So yeah, I'm liking it. Oh, and you see Gunslinger Spawn without his mask, and he puts on some Teen Dog shades, and that was pretty fun. Anyway, Gunslinger Spawn, if you've been liking that, you're still going to like that. Then we got A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, issue number 3. This may have the most words out of this entire series so far, probably with a whopping like 25, I don't know. But I'm liking it. Andre Lima Araujo doing the artwork here, really love it. It's got it's a deceptively simple type style, so it has lots of room to breathe. The action, everything about it works. There's just a lot of action here. We're getting more into the story. We're getting some character development even, but not in a way that you think you would get, right? It's violent. It's got amazing coloring by Chris O'Halloran. But that artwork, like I was saying, there's a lot of room to breathe, but there's detail there, but it's not a cluttered page by whatsoever. The panel design and the layout is absolutely fantastic. The action sequences, the color used in there is absolutely phenomenal. This book is very thin. Not a lot of meat on the bones, but it's got some meat on the bones. And it's getting more as we're getting further along the bone. I liked it. I thought it was good. Then we got A King's Vengeance, issue number 1. This is from Scout Comics. This was an interesting story. It had a really cool artwork. It's about this king. Now there's this like other king that's like taking over his land or something. He's trying to get it back, and he goes off on his own to try to confront the king. He rides a giant dinosaur. Lots of dinosaurs in comics this week. Lots of people getting into situations over their heads. So this one has some really nice artwork. The story There didn't seem to be too much there, and then the end of it was really confusing, but I guess it was set up to what's to come. But the art in that was really cool. So, A King's Vengeance. Then we got Impossible Jones, issue number 2 from Carl Kiesel. I thought this one was all right. I mean, I think the book is fine. David Hahn does the artwork there. I think if you're a fan of Carl's work on, say, like Harley Quinn or something like that, you're going to appreciate this. I was a bit lost at first because it had been like 2 or 3 months since issue number 1 came out, but eventually I got pulled right back into the story. She's this woman, she was experimented on, she's out for revenge, but she's starting to develop and appreciate these powers and learning more impossible powers. So it was interesting enough. Impossible Jones, number 2, decent. Then we have Tom Holland's Fright Night. No, not that Tom Holland. Anyway, Fright Night, number 1. I had heard that this was supposed to be more like Tom Holland's idea for Fright Night Part 2, and not the Fright Night Part 2 that we got. I'm a huge fan of Fright Night, so I had to check this one out, and I liked it. I really did. First of all, Ken Hazer cover. Look at that. How cool is that? So it really threw me off at first, because at first it's like, I feel like I'm in a different story, and then all of a sudden it's just recapping the first movie, and I'm like, is this just telling in a very brief manner the original movie? And it does, just to kind of catch you all up to where we're at. And then we get into sequel territory, and it's familiar a little bit to the Fright Night 2 that we got, but there are certain things about it, like in Fright Night 2, Peter Vincent and Charlie, like, they both already kind of don't believe in vampires again, and we're not doing that. We're doing a little bit of a different approach. I liked it. The artwork is not very good, I'll be honest, but I did like the story. If you are a fan of Fright Night and you want to see what we could have possibly had gotten in a sequel, I'd recommend it. But only if you're a fan, seriously. Then we got No Holds Barred, issue number 1. This is from Behemoth. It's an interesting enough, charming enough of an idea, but it just didn't quite work for me. It was kind of overly goofy, but that may be some people's thing. So it's William Shakespeare if he was Batman. And I'm not even kidding. He's the Bard. I'm not even kidding. He's got a bust of himself. He opens it up, he hits it, the bookcase opens up, him and his partner slide down the poles, it's the Bard and the Page or something like that, and they're literally, they're Batman and Robin, and that's what it is. And it's a really kooky, zany, weird, wild story that just didn't have a good pace for me and kind of kept feeling clunky. But that's an interesting concept, right? Somebody was like, oh, William Shakespeare busting on the Batman in the Wayne Manor in the 60s. What if Shakespeare was Batman? Then we got Army of Darkness, 1979, issue number 4. Yes, issue number 4. I didn't really like many of the covers on this one. I usually love Dynamite covers, but like that's Matina, but it's just really muddy. It doesn't pop for me, but I guess that's a cool enough cover. This was a fun book, though. It's Ash in 1979 in the movie Warriors, right? Where there's all these gangs. Now, one of these gangs has the Necronomicon, and they're going out systematically taking over all the territory and killing all the other gangs. Ash is thrown in the midst of it, and it feels like he might be being betrayed soon. But this was a really fun issue. It's a fun story. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but seriously enough. The art does shift and change towards the last few pages. That threw me off because the styles were completely different. That being said, those stories pretty solid on that. Then we got Joy Operations, issue number 2 from Brian Michael Bendis, Stephen Byrne, Dark Horse Comics. Dark Horse Comics just got bought by a European video game company or something. Keep your ears to the ground on that one, y'all. But Joy Operations, I really did not like issue number 1. It was indecipherable for me. I could not get into it, could not understand what was going on, and it really bummed me out because I was hoping that Bendis kind of going back to creator-owned, doing something outside of DC and Marvel. Like let's get that creative energy back, but it's just not working for me. And then I go into issue number 2, and it's just not working for me. So Joy Operations, I'm sad to say, I'm just going to be dropping that one. So that's what I thought about the books I read. Some decent stuff out this week. There's some really solid ones from DC. Marvel had a so-so week, and some of the smaller publishers had some decent weeks too. But overall, that Nightwing book, that's going to be the talk of the town. I really liked it. If you like that Nightwing book, I highly encourage you to pick up Madman Atomic Comics, issue number 9. This is from years ago. And if you can't find this one, if you can find, there's a Madman 3D special that reprints this issue and another in 3D. So you can wear 3D glasses, you can see it, and it's freaking amazing. It's the best of all of those, actually. Anyway, so that's what I read. That's what I thought. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. It's the holiday times, but don't forget to join us Thursday night for the 4th annual Festivus stream here on PCP at 8 p.m. Central Time. That's right, I had to think about the time. So join us. We'll be airing our grievances, talking about our best of lists for 2021, and showing off feats of strength and all that jazz. And of course, we're going to be raising the Festivus poll. So join us Thursday night for the Festivus stream. Until then, though, I hope everybody has a happy holiday season. Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll see you soon. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Merry Station.